In today's video, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the upcoming pattern, taking a look at these current conditions and also diving into those upcoming storms and temperature patterns. There is some signs that there could be some colder air on the way. It's not completely concrete yet, but we do have some signs of that to go over. Now, we do see that there is a storm system now moving onshore to the western United States, and this is kind of the beginning of what would be our potential snowstorm off the East Coast, but chances are still limited for that to completely come together. Yesterday we talked about how it would take so much perfect timing to make that actually happen, and as of now, no models are really showing it as they originally showed it. We do have the GFS model showing some interior eastern snowfall. We'll go over that in a little while, and then the European model is a little bit of just a complete miss, I would say. We do have some storminess and some low pressure underneath, as you can see, for these areas, showers and maybe even thunderstorms happening. We do have some colder air here for a lot of the north central United States and the northeast, and this is leading towards some snow showers in some spots. We'll zoom in, take a look at those in just a little while. Let's start out west, though. We'll start in the northwest here, and as you can see, with this low that is just offshore of Oregon and California, we see this is shoving precipitation up northward through these areas, mostly light to moderate and mostly rainfall here, unless you're in very high elevations, in which case you're looking at snowfall there, mostly the Cascades. Same story as we move down through Oregon and northern California, the Sierra Nevadas, and some of these hilly regions here in further west California there. We are seeing some of that. And a little bit more moderate to heavy precipitation moving onshore close to the lower portion of this low pressure system. As we work our way towards Mexico and Texas and New Mexico, we can see there is some rainfall moving in from the south across the border here. We do see some of that light to moderate rainfall moving across there. We can see some snow showers moving southward here across some of the areas just to the east of the Rockies here in the northern plains. Mostly light to moderate in these areas as well. Then as we take a look underneath here, we can see some spotty showers and thunderstorms here across kind of these deeper south areas in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, maybe even Missouri and Kansas there. But as we move a little bit further eastward for Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, we can see some heavier precipitation and more persistent precipitation also happening in this area, especially there in Tennessee, where it is training across the region here, and this can lead towards flooding at times because we see the moderate to heavy precipitation kind of just consistently hitting the same areas there across the central regions of Tennessee. Definitely looking at some snow showers earlier this morning for portions of the Appalachian Mountains here, the southern Appalachian Mountains. Certainly interesting there. And then a couple of showers making their way across the Appalachian and into these more eastern regions, but these are kind of limited at this point. As we work our way towards the northeast, we can see there is some low pressure up here in Canada and some frontal boundaries working their way through just like that. So we are seeing some showery activity here for the mid-Atlantic and northeast here, both in the form of rainfall, especially the further south and further east you go there, and then even snowfall as we work our way through these lakes regions here in New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on, and we're going to move on and take a look at the upcoming storminess because there is a few storms to go over in the upcoming pattern. And then we're also going to take a look at the temperature pattern that we didn't take a look at for a couple of days, go over that in just a little bit. Now here we are taking a look here at the upcoming pattern, and as we just continue on with this towards into tomorrow, we can see some of this storminess is becoming a little bit more intense here as we have the jet stream doing about like this. So you have this kink right there, and that's creating this intensity as all this energy is wrapping around that corner. We can see that this is picking up an intensity right here, and this is all going to kind of take aim at the mid-Atlantic here. Potentially snowfall here in the northern mid-Atlantic. We'll talk about that in a moment for the 8th, 9th time frame, which will be later on Sunday into Monday there. Now, we do see that there is more storminess still happening out here in the west. Certainly something to pay attention to. Snowfall especially. We can see already by 2 a.m. there on Monday, January 9th, we see some snowfall here for the Appalachian Mountains and just some of the mid-Atlantic in general. Very, very light and sporadic. And then north of that Maryland-Pennsylvania border, we're basically seeing snowfall, it appears. A lot of this energy has transferred offshore, but it just doesn't fully form into a nor'easter that can move up the coast. We can tell the jet stream is doing something like this. So all of this energy is going to be just basically forced out and not up the East Coast, and that is kind of your setup there. As you can see, it just fully slides off the coast and leaves these people high and dry, basically. We do see this storm system is really unfolding here out west. We see snowfall for the Sierra Nevadas up through Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado. All of these kind of Rocky Mountain states and western mountainous states are seeing a lot of that heavier snowfall with this major storm system. Now we're just going to skip a little bit here because things midweek get a little bit boring, but by the time we're reaching about Thursday here, we see our next system really unfolding, and I'm actually going to skip this back towards very early on Thursday, maybe even late Wednesday, because we do have a bit of a setup here, I will say. We have the warm front up above, a bit of a cold front perhaps underneath, and this will be our next severe weather setup as we have this warm air surging where that warm front is. This is going to create a warm sector in there, and then definitely some cold air swinging back around underneath. This is going to be potentially, I would say, Wednesday into Thursday. Somewhere we need to watch is going to be this area in here. So I would say Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana need to be watching for that early on Thursday time period. As you can see, this really unfolds with this cold front here. Again, warm front over top. Certainly, by the time we're reaching Thursday afternoon, it's going to be this area we're watching in here. So Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Alabama. All of these areas need to be watched in here, and I really feel like this is going to be our next severe weather event, like I mentioned. Now, for Friday, we're going to be watching the East Coast, actually, the Southeast here primarily. I would say there is some potential here for severe weather on the eastern end of things. If we get this more inland solution, there will be colder air in place, but this is really going to be a threat, I would say, for the Southeast down here. So Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, perhaps Tennessee. It's probably going to be a little bit cold up in those mountainous regions. We'll have to see. And then probably even Virginia on the front end. And this actually kind of reminds me of that setup we had just a few days ago with the thunderstorms and some severe weather. So we'll be watching for that. But the areas are very similar here. So again, another 2-day severe weather event. I would say 2 to 3 day severe weather event there. And by the time we're reaching the 14th, as you can see on this European model, again, it's pretty much a non-event. We do get the low offshore, but this is by the time we're reaching about 6 a.m. or maybe even 8 a.m. here on Saturday, the 14th. It's just a little bit too late, and there is a little bit of cold air here, but not close enough to the coast to really bring snowfall where that precipitation is. So we get these snow showers for the Ohio Valley and surrounding regions, but that's about it on this European model. And we really just see it hover around, but as a rainstorm. Now, I will say the interesting thing here is as we close out this European model here, this is hours 240, which is as far out as we get here, we can see that there is a stronger system here for the deeper south moving across the nation. And if we can get some cold air to move back in and couple with this, this could be our next threat. But really, it's tough to say. And this is going to be a major system out west again. So we see it here Sunday the 15th, and then it just slides down really quickly. And we'll watch that take place here. As you can see, that just really quickly over the course of maybe 24 hours slides down into there. And we even have our next system here. So we're not going to really stop with the train of storms. I mean, you can see it right here. We can see storm number 1 finishing up there, storm number 2 on its way to the east, and then storm number 3 is basically just getting started out west here. So we can see where the jet stream is, the southern jet stream, the more stormy jet stream that is, and we can see this train of storms along it. Very interesting and very La Nina-like. This is very typical of a La Nina to see these storms moving in this way. Very interesting, but this cold is all bottled up here, as you can see. So no Arctic air, according to this model, after about the 13th, 14th. And I mean, even then, again, it's marginal cold like we were talking about yesterday. It's nothing crazy. Now, as we take a look at the total precipitation through the next 10 days, anywhere in the whites here, we're expecting practically no precipitation. Your grays are 1/10 of an inch or less. Your greens are 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues 1/2 inch to an inch. Your yellows 1 inch to 2 inches. Reds 2 to 5 inches there. And then your browns 5 to 10 inches of precipitation, which is usually what we call our very high amounts. So very stormy 10-day period here. And we can see that a lot of New England gets this actually as we get a lot of these storms moving pretty much up the coast, or at least bringing their storminess up the coast there. And then plenty of this up and down the west coast, as you can see as well, as again, we're talking about storms moving in this way. pretty consistently here. And this would be an excellent snowfall setup if we have consistent cold air moving into these areas, but it just isn't lining up that way. We even have the blues and the magentas in here, which is going to be 10 to even 20 inches of rainfall for California, or snowfall depending on where you're at. Very, very high amounts. Now, the total snowfall here, we're anywhere in the grays. We're expecting a dusting, if anything. Blues, 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. Purple, 6 to 10. Pinks, 10 to 20 there. Pastel blues, 20 to 38 inches of snowfall. And then your pastel pinks, 38 inches plus. Certainly a whole lot out west. Now, obviously, we could see that the east is expecting pretty much none according to this model over the next 10 days, all the way through January 17th. Now, we did expect January to be a winter thaw month. We did expect that. Even looking months ago, we were making videos about how December looked to be, potentially Arctic air on the way, and that is exactly what took place around Christmas. As you remember, very brutal Arctic air. Did not get any storms to line up with that properly for snowfall in the east, but it certainly was cold enough. The timing was off, and there's nothing that can be predicted about that in the long range. But we did expect January to potentially be a warmer month. So this isn't something that is completely unexpected according to our long range outlooks. And you can go back and check that. We even expected February and March to be a little bit cooler than perhaps January was. And that's, again, months and months and months ago. So that's why I'm not really completely surprised here. And I don't even think that the later portion of January can be really ruled out for cold and snow. We can only see to the 17th here. People are canceling the winter, and we're only a week into January. It's very tough to say, and things can switch on a dime. And I'll leave you guys with this on this portion of the video, but really it only takes 1 to 2 days of brutal cold with the storm lining up for everybody to be satisfied with how the winter went. If everybody got, 2 feet of snow in one weekend, every single person, every cold and snow lover would be satisfied, literally. So it's not going to take a whole lot. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the GFS model. We do see consistent storminess here too. So here's the kind of 8th through 9th time frame. We do get a little bit more snowfall here in the mid-Atlantic than we saw in the European model. A little bit further south as well for DC and Baltimore as well. There we saw some snowfall occurring. As we just continue this on for that 13th, 14th system, we can see we get a little bit more of a coastal solution, perhaps some front-end snowfall here in New England, and a little bit more here across the Ohio Valley, but still not as major of a solution as it potentially could have been. As we continue this on, we see another storm system around the 18th move through this region with warmer air. But according to this model, we do get colder air on the way, and actually a positive P&A look according to this model, where we start to see some warmth out here. And this allows for all the cold to just start heading east. As you can see, even have a Miller B nor'easter taking place here with some moderate to heavy snowfall for New England as we speak right there. We get another storm system there across the northeast, potentially bringing snowfall to this pocket here, another light to moderate snowfall event. But that cold looking more dramatic by this point. Definitely some positive P&A action happening back here. Jet stream is doing about like this. So if we have any storms moving along this could potentially bring some snowfall. Certainly would have to watch in this area, but we're going to take this with a grain of salt. This is the GFS model after all. But certainly there isn't no signs of any cold. It's just limited at this point, and if it's going to occur, it's going to occur after the 16th or 17th, which is basically as far as we can get on the European model. So it's just kind of the unforeseen, future at this point, according to the models. Now, taking a look at this temperature outlook real quickly as we load it in, the European Ensemble model, this model tends to just show warmth, as you can see, some colder times for some spots here around the 14th, 15th. But then we just get back into full warmth here, according to this European model. We get this negative P&A, which is the opposite of what you want in the east, by the way. So we see this warmth really surging because of that. But this model does have a tendency to show these types of patterns in the long range. I'm not panicking yet, but it is certainly discouraging a little bit through the 22nd to see this level of warmth still trending in the east. I obviously want cold and snow. That's usually what I tend to want in the wintertime personally, but I don't let my biases get in the way here. I love the weather in general, so it is exciting for me to hop on here and talk about it regardless of what's expected. Just that would be my preference if I had to put it out there. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. I think there's a lot of things unforeseen here, and we're going to get a lot more answers coming up. This seems to be one of those question mark periods of time on the model runs where I feel like we're right on the just brink and right on the fence of finally having a breakthrough where we see something in the future to give us a little bit more hope of cold and snow later on. So stay tuned with us over the coming days. I think I'll be correct on that one, but maybe not. We'll have to just wait and see, right? That's what I love about the weather so much, is it's so unpredictable. I love it. Anyway, guys, be sure to subscribe as we do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon and hit all videos to get notifications when we do upload so you never miss one. Like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.